he never got to see the end of his own movie. On August 20th, 1989, a man stood on a set he had bullied, bribed, and browbeaten local officials into letting him build. He was 15 years into a career most Hollywood insiders had told him he'd never have. Within minutes, a 160-foot water tower he'd rigged to topple would come down early. A cable would snap, a telephone pole would fall, and Henry Blight Toby Halicki, the self-made king of the car crash movie, would be dead before the ambulance reached the hospital, killed making the sequel to the film that made him a legend. He was 48 years old. On screen, Toby Halicki was Mandrian Pace, cool, unbothered, a car thief with a Rolodex of aliases and the swagger of a man who'd never once broken a sweat. Off-screen, Halicki was something rarer and stranger, a man who actually lived the myth he was selling. He wasn't an actor who learned to drive for a role. He was a tow truck operator and junkyard owner from Gardena, California, who decided one day that he could make a better car chase movie than anyone in Hollywood, and then went and proved it with almost none of the industry's money, permits, or blessing. Gone in 60 Seconds was reportedly shot for about $150,000 and went on to gross more than $40 million. Halicki did this by treating Los Angeles like his own private stunt course. Much of the film was shot without official sanction, often on Sunday mornings when permit inspectors slept in and police enforcement was thin. The now legendary 40-minute chase sequence wasn't choreographed with insurance adjusters standing by. It was Halicki in a battered yellow Mustang named Eleanor, doing things that would give a modern stunt coordinator a heart attack. That's the persona. The man underneath it paid for it in his own body. Everyone remembers Eleanor's final leap in the original film, 128 feet through the air, a genuine record-setting jump captured in a single unbroken take. What most audiences never knew is what it did to the man behind the wheel. Halicki compressed several vertebrae in his spine during that jump. Friends and family said he never walked the same again. He kept it quiet. There was no press conference, no injury report, no delay in production. He finished the film he'd bet everything on, then went back to building the next one.
That instinct, do it yourself, absorb the cost personally, tell no one, wasn't a one-time act of bravado. It was who he was. He'd been dogged by accusations that he'd bought wrecked cars from salvage yards to swap VINs onto stolen vehicles. The charges against him were eventually dropped, but the same idea, steal cars, switch identities with wrecked doubles, became the loosely autobiographical backbone of Gone in 60 Seconds itself. He built his cult classic out of the same instincts that had once gotten him investigated. Which detail lands hardest for you? The jump he hid, or the fact he wrote his own maybe crimes into the plot? Tell me in the comments.
After 1974, Halicki didn't chase a major studio career or try to become a respectable Hollywood name. He built his own empire instead. He wrote, produced, directed, and starred in a string of follow-up films, The Junkman, Deadline Auto Theft, that never matched the original's cultural footprint, but deepened the legend. Behind a set of 12-foot blank walls at his Gardena junkyard, Halicki quietly assembled one of the largest private collections of automobilia in the country, an estimated 100,000-plus items, including model train layouts, pre-war pedal cars, vintage motorcycles, antique guns, and even Lindbergh-era airplanes hidden behind secret panels. The public knew him as a stunt-driving daredevil. Almost nobody knew he was also an obsessive archivist of Americana, cataloging and preserving pieces of history most people would have scrapped.
Those who worked with him described his public face as that of a hard-living, dangerous renegade. The private man was, by several accounts, meticulous, generous with people he trusted, and utterly consumed by his own vision. The kind of person incapable of delegating the thing he loved most. In 1989, after a 6-year relationship, he married Denise Shakarian. They returned from their honeymoon, and Halicki immediately began filming his sequel, in which both of them would star. Halicki again as the car thief, Denise as a computer-savvy accomplice. There is something almost unbearably fitting about how it happened. Halicki didn't die in a hospital bed decades removed from his glory days, softened by age into someone the industry could safely mourn as a colorful character. He died on a film set, in character, mid-stunt, chasing the same impossible standard he'd set for himself at 33 years old, with a battered Mustang and no studio behind him. 10 years after his death, his widow Denise would executive produce a big-budget remake of his original film, bringing Eleanor back to the screen for a new generation with Jerry Bruckheimer's resources behind her, the kind of backing Halicki himself never had, and by every account, never wanted. A colleague who knew him in his final years put it simply: there will never be another Henry Blight Toby Halicki. He didn't get to slow down. He never really wanted to. The junkyard is gone. The 100,000-piece collection is scattered to collectors who may never know whose hands first gathered it. But Eleanor still runs. The chase still plays, unbroken, exactly as he shot it. A 40-minute argument for the idea that some men are only ever fully alive when they refuse to let anyone else take the wheel. If this is the kind of hidden history you want more of, the human cost behind the legend, the parts that never made the highlight reel, let me know which director or actor's story you'd like uncovered next.